going on in the head of yours? I don't make sense to when I feel that I'm making it worse. I try to find out just what's serving you in a new perspective. If gonna find the truth, if gonna find the truth. I've waited many days, but you can't now. Taking care of my girl, you know somehow. And it's so worked out now that you are here. And I'm so proud, look down, I wipe my tears. Time goes by, and soon you go. Don't be shy, your headphones, girl. I hope that I can do this right. Make sure you feel safe tonight. Make sure you feel safe tonight. And it's so worked out now that you are here. And I'm so proud, then I wipe my tears.
Hey everyone, and welcome to today's showing of SRS Review podcast. As you guys know, I'm Mr. Murray. Thank you guys for joining me again today, and welcome. So, like I told you all, this was a little different compared to typical podcasts. Give me one second. And why is this one different? Well, it's live, as you just saw. I drank live. It's awesome. Um, and plus, I think this way will work better for you guys because you'll be able to answer, or I'm sorry, not answer, you'll be able to ask questions over in the chat bar to the right of me, I believe. I can never get that right, even though I've done this twice already with fifth grade. But what you're going to need for this live podcast is your study guide, maybe a pen, pencil, just in case you need to fix things up. Basically, how to work is I'm going to go over your study guide once more. Okay. Um, Once I go over your study guide, then I'll take a little bit of time to describe what to expect on the test. That way you're not freaking out. You'll be okay. Trust me, you guys will do just fine. But then I'll also take about 10 minutes towards the end to answer any questions you guys may have. Um, so remember, being that this is live, I do apologize if you hear, my chair squeaking or any noises coming from outside that are beyond my control. So, um, I'll give you guys about a minute to get your study guides ready to go, and then we'll start. And thank you to all my viewers who are out there right now. Remember, chat bar is to the right. If you have any questions at any time, please make sure you are a YouTube member. That way you can actually submit the questions. If you have a username that you're not too proud of, it's okay. Don't tell me who you are. Just post your questions. And remember, any and all vulgar comments, questions will not be accepted, and you will be kicked from the channel. So please keep it clean, ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching from somewhere else. All right, so let's go ahead and begin. Now, the first part we're talking about is European empires. Now, with the European empires, you're going to want to remember that Europe started developing their own sense of nationalism. And what I mean by nationalism, very simple. They wanted to make sure that their people had that sense of pride, that they knew where they were living was the best place that they could possibly live. They were proud of their government. They were proud of the people living there. They were proud of even the food and the style that they had. It was showing that nationalism. Excuse me. And typically, when we think of nationalism, the first thing that's going to come to our mind is, well, um, do I go for the United States? Well, yeah, of course. You're showing your own version of nationalism, and it's along the same lines for the Europeans. You'll start to see a lot of this in Western Europe. That's where you have a lot of the colonial empires. So pay attention to that. Number two, we're talking about Europe at war. Now, remember, World War II was a very devastating time, and it actually did a lot of damage to Europe. I'm talking about in terms of buildings were destroyed, lives were lost, families were broken up. Um, it just wasn't the best place to be at the time. But remember, that sense of nationalism really helped the people come back stronger, and they rebuilt Europe, and it is a lot better off now than it was back then because those people kept that pride in Europe and they wanted to rebuild. Number three, we're talking about the Soviet Union. So remember, with the Soviet Union, you're going to see a form of government that we'll talk about in a little bit. And with this government, we'll start to see that the rich stay rich and the poor get even poorer, if that wasn't already understood. Um, what I mean by this, well, simple. You have the government controlling factories and their farms. And as a result, you're going to see that these factories are producing what they want to produce. And they're telling the people, well, this is what you need to grow for us. And we're going to take all of the stuff that you grow and we're going to sell it to the rich people and then sell it to the middle class people. And whatever's left, you guys can have. We'll sell it to you for a little bit. So basically, they were buying crops that they already had made for themselves, putting them in even a bigger hole than what they're already in, which is very unfortunate. Number four is a geography question. What was the largest empire in Eastern Europe in 1900? That is going to be Austria Hungary. That was the largest empire. Number five, what did the Treaty of Versailles require Germany to do? I remember, like I was telling you guys in class, think of the Treaty of Versailles kind of like a timeout for Germany. What do you mean by timeout, Mr. Murray? Well, it's simple. After the treaty was signed, Germany was banned from any military action at all. They weren't allowed to set up any sorts of armies or fight in any wars or battles, and they actually had to give up land as a result. So not only are they giving up land, but then they also said, "Hey, well, guess what? Not only did you give up that land, you got to pay some money as well." So now they're giving up their land and they're paying money. So this is really going to tick off the German people very much. Um, and they had to pay for all of their damages from World War One, um, which is pretty bad when you think about it. Um, and I am noticing a little bit that the video's slowing down a bit. Bear with me. If you have to reload it, and it'll start working once more. Okay. Now we're taking a look at number six. What country did Germany invade to begin World War II? And that'd be Poland. They invaded Poland. Um, like I was saying, they weren't allowed to start any fights or have any armies, but that didn't stop Hitler and his forces from starting secret armies. Um, in a way, they were saying, "Oh no, we're just going to defend ourselves in case something happens," but in reality, they were actually preparing for World War II to get revenge. Number seven. Why did most Eastern European voters have only one political party to choose from? Going back to what I was talking about earlier with the Soviet Union, you see that there's going to be what's called a puppet government. And with the puppet government, basically, you're going to have other governments being forced by another government to do what they want and to do what they say. And we see this um, happening with the Communist Party. Soviet Union adopted communism, and as a result, everyone who ran during these elections were part of the Communist Party. Um, that's not to say that they couldn't run for any other party, but if they did, it wasn't good. It was not good at all. They were basically risking their lives if they did this. Okay. We go to number eight. It's a history question. Why were both sides in the Cold War hesitant to start the war? Um, Basically, both sides had nuclear weapons that could cause worldwide damage. They don't want to press that button and be the cause of the war. They can press one button, start the war, and end the war at the same time. And you have to really ask yourself, is it worth pressing that button or putting in that order to kill that many people over a war? Something that you might be able to talk about peacefully or find another solution, not just a nuclear warfare. Number 9, 10, and 11 are your vocabulary questions, and luckily they're actually all in order already. So, number 9 is during period of colonialism, Western European nations controlled large portions of the world. Number 10, World War One spread rapidly as countries in alliance with one another joined the hostiles. And number 11, the Iron Curtain was an invisible line that divided communist Eastern and democratic Western European nations. Okay. Now, number 12 and 13, that was your question with the political cartoon. I'll talk more about that when we get to the actual test itself. But remember, when you see these political cartoons, they're a person's way of expressing their beliefs about politics and really utilizing that freedom of speech and press. So here on the comic, you should be able to see it if you have your book on you. It is a portrait created by Dr. Seuss of Adolf Hitler with the swastika on his arm, right arm, holding up what looks to be a turkey with the face of Uncle Sam on it, with the caption reading, "A toast to next Thanksgiving. Here's hoping we're not the bird." Basically, what we have going on here is a political cartoon that's stating we need to take some sort of action against Hitler, or we'll be the next people in, concentration camps, or we'll be the one that Hitler's going to try to impose his will on. Um, Remember, if we don't do anything about it, he'll take over really. So that's what we try to prevent. So question 12 is who are the subjects of the cartoon? And that'd be A. That'd be Adolf Hitler and Uncle Sam? And B, what do you think about the cartoonist Dr. Seuss was worried about? And he was worried about B, Hitler and Germany harming America. So, once again, using that freedom of speech and press to make political cartoons. Number 14. Why might a citizen who has helped elect a government be more willing to fight to defend it? Well, it's very simple. They'd be more willing to fight for that government because they're the ones who voted those people in. Um, they believe strongly in that party, and as a result, they're going to do whatever it takes to keep that person in power, even if it means actual fighting. Hopefully, it never comes to that, but there are cases where it does. 15. How do you think Soviet peasants felt about collective farms and why? It's simple. They hated them. Why? Well, they weren't allowed to grow what they wanted to grow. They had to do what the Soviet Union told them. And then whenever they got their crops, they had to give them to the Soviet Union and hope that they got something back in return. Hope is a big word. Um, they resented losing their lands and hated having to live with other farmers and families just because that's what the Soviet Union wanted. And as a result, you're going to see a lot of them start to, starve to death or look for other types of jobs, if even possible, because they don't have enough food to support their family. And number 16, you're supposed to use a timeline. What came second, the beginning of World War II or the formation of NATO? And NATO came after World War II. Okay, so that is your study guide. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes and I'm going to talk about your test really quick, just some stuff that you need to be mentally ready for. So if you have questions, please save them until after I talk about the test itself, and then I'll be more than glad to help you. So you are going to have 10 questions on vocabulary words. So study your vocabulary words. Luckily, you will have a word bank, 12 words, 10 vocabulary will be used. So that means two will not be used. Um, like I always tell you guys, cross out the ones you've already done. That way you don't use them again. Part two is a location question. You're going to see a map and multiple choice again. Please pay attention to actual points. Here you're going to be looking at the cities, and please note your directions. Okay, north, east, southwest. Never eat sour watermelon. Or whatever you would like to remember it as. I know different teachers teach it in different ways, but that'll be a big factor. Some of you guys lost points on easy questions last time because you forgot your directions. North, east, southwest. North, east, south, west. Okay. Um, part three of your test is going to be a political cartoon. You're going to have to note the important words that are going on there. You're also going to have to note the important symbols, okay, or imagery, and also just a brief summary about what you think is going on by looking at not only the words but the pictures as well. Okay. And part four is going to be writing me a paragraph for two questions, talking about how World War I begins and what happens, as well as the feeling of nationalism. Now, remember, these are paragraph questions, ladies and gentlemen, so you do have the back of the page to use. I would like to see at least 3 to 4 sentences. That way, I can give you full credit. I know you guys are smart. I just want to see you, uh, flex those knowledge muscles. Okay. That's it for the test. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're about 15. Let's say I started. I can take about 10 minutes for your questions, okay? That way I can try and answer them as best as I possibly can. So at this time, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box to the right of me, and I'll help you as best as I can. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn up the music a little bit so there's no, awkward silence, and that you guys can still enjoy the music, which is provided to you by Monster Cat. You can check them out, twitch.tv. Just search Monster Cat plays great music if you just need something to study to. I know a lot of you guys like this kind of music anyways, which is why I play it. That, and I have to make sure that you're not going to hear or see anything that should not be on here. So let me go ahead and put that music back on for you guys. Okay, so the first question I have, will there be names on the test? No, no names on this one. Vocabulary words. Know your vocabulary words. I can tell you that for a fact. And hopefully, like I said, can someone let me know in the chat if the music's too loud? Can you hear both of us at the same time equally? I'm testing everything out, so you guys are helping me out, and I appreciate that. Would peasants count as slaves in collective farming? Yes, they would. Only reason why is because when you have these peasants, this was the easiest job that they could do without having any sort of an education. Typically, they would pick on the farmers, but yes, if the peasants were working, they would be considered slaves in collective farming. They're not going to get as much of the benefits as they used to, so that's like I was saying earlier, they went from poor to poorer, which is unfortunate. But very good question. Thank you. So far, guys, great questions. Let's keep them coming if you guys have them. Okay. So, next question comes from Ricky. That'd be, are there any trick questions? Let's see. In my opinion, I don't see anything that are, well, sorry, let me rephrase that. I don't see any questions that are truly tricky. Just a lot of questions that ask for your honest opinion. It's going to be that political cartoon. If I have to pick something that's going to be the tricky part, it would be the political cartoon. But as long as you have your own opinion about it, you'll be good to go. Is there more in the communist or one-party system? I'm not sure what you're trying to ask. Can you reformulate your question, please? Is there more in the communist or one-party system? Are you trying to ask, is there more questions on communism or a one-party system, possibly? Okay, so, let's see. Well, it does help to know the difference between communism and one-party system. Remember, communism would be a form of government, whereas a one-party system means there's literally one party in that government. So, in a sense, it's like a dictatorship. But yes, know the difference between communism and an actual one-party system. Let's see. There's nothing directly on communism or a one-party system, but knowing both of those will help you for the vocabulary and also for your short answer questions at the end. So it's good to know both of those. Thank you. Good question. From Ricky, maybe more questions. What do you mean by maybe more questions? Are you asking how many questions are on the test? If you're asking, there's 20. right, thank you very much. Um, we'll talk to you later. So good luck on your test. Thank you for watching. It's not related, but what headset to use? I don't mind talking about it. It is a Razer Kraken Pro. Give me 1 second. It's a Razer Kraken Pro. It's a gaming headset, very comfortable, noise canceling. I'm able to hear everything I need to without any outside distractions, which is why sometimes when I'm making these videos, I don't hear that there's something happening out there because they're all noise canceling. So it's awesome. Great headset to have, if you're doing streaming or you just like playing games or just want a good set of headphones to listen to music to. Trust me, I use these things a lot when I was doing my undergrad studies, and it was awesome while I was doing homework. Didn't have to worry about any distractions at all. So we're coming to our last minute. If you have any more questions, go ahead and ask them now. Thank you, Eliana. You have a good one. All right, it looks like I'm not getting any more questions today. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the music a little bit. I'd just like to go ahead and thank you guys for tuning in once more to SRS Podcast Review. Hopefully you guys like it. Leave comments when the video posts in the next 10 to 15 minutes telling me what you like, what you didn't like. Excuse me, what would you like me to change? Or even tell me at school tomorrow. I appreciate all the comments that you guys have. And we'll see you tomorrow. Good luck on your test. Bye, guys.